Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Um,
Good evening.
First of all, let me warmly welcome our resource person, Professor Manoj, and the participants who have joined today. And as you know, this is a workshop organized by the Research Center of Faculty of Management Studies and Commerce to enhance the capacity of its members on qualitative research. In fact, as you know, that we wanted to have this session during our semester break, but unfortunately, we couldn't have it. But that since the semester started, we thought of going online in the evening. But having said that, I know that there are certain colleagues who are having lectures today. So that what we thought of is to do the recording of this session and make it available for your later reference. So without taking time, let me introduce our resource person, Professor Manoj Samarthunga, who is a professor in the Department of Tourism and Hospitality Management, Faculty of Management Studies, Rajarata University of Sri Lanka. He's a renowned qualitative researcher who advocates the co-construction of knowledge. He has an extensive publication record, especially in the tourism area, and he currently serves as an editorial member of many internationally renowned journals. In addition to that, Professor Samarthunga is a research fellow at Pantheon Sorbonne University, France. Then again, a visiting professor of Breda University of Applied Sciences, the Netherlands. Then Osnabrück University, Germany, and then Chinkara Karakatin University of Turkey. I hope that I pronounced the names correctly. In fact, I got it verified from him before the session started. Yes, beyond academia, Professor Samarthunga is also playing a role in the tourism development through active collaboration with international and national organizations. And currently, he is the director of the University Business Linkage Cell at Rajarata University of Sri Lanka. And in 2024, last year, he received the prestigious CVCD Award, recognizing him as the best young researcher in the field of management. So we have a very versatile person, both in the academia and the policy making. So without taking much time, let me invite Professor Samarthunga to start the session. But before that, let me remind our audience that the session will go about 1 hour and 15 minutes. And after which we will have a Q&A session. So feel free to use the chat box during the session so that you can post the questions. So if not, once the session is over, we will take up those questions. Thank you. Over to you, Professor Manoj.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Nuhan Gunaratna, and thank you very much, the Faculty of Management and Commerce of the University of Sri Jadanapura for inviting me to conduct this session on ethnography, auto-ethnography, and phenomenology. And I'm really excited today to address all of you. I know the number joined here are maybe a little lower, but the session will be recorded and is being recorded, and then we'll be able to share it with other colleagues who are kind of busy at homes right now. So anyway, during these 1.5 hours, or maybe 1 hour and 50 minutes, we are going to talk about some qualitative aspects of research, right? Like not exactly about the dimensions, measurements, and the scales, not the p-values, not the cron alpha, but about what is knowledge and how it is done and how the knowledge should be derived through the qualitative interpretations, especially from the areas like ethnography, phenomenology, and the auto-ethnography. And let me share my presentation. Right, perfect. Actually, I do not call this a workshop. I do not call this a kind of a any uh another lecture. I would call this a kind of an experience sharing session because we all are like-minded as academics. Plus, we have the postgraduate and the PhD students here, and you will know about you know something about the qualitative research, you know something about the quantitative research as well. So I'm trying to share my lived experience in the qualitative domain for about maybe about a decade now, what I have been thinking as correct and how we should deliver the or generate the knowledge through qualitative methodologies. So after listening to my session, you will be able to understand the nature and the importance of the qualitative studies and think through the lenses of a qualitative researcher, because my lens is totally different to Professor Dr. Nuwan's lens, because he's a quantitative researcher, and similarly the PSN's lens may be different from mine, because I try to look at the things differently through a different perspective, through a different angle. Then we have many more questions about the subjectivity. We have the objectivity issues are coming, and we have the trustworthiness issues, reliability and the validity. So let's see how we can manage all these challenges when conducting our qualitative research. And also let's try to be familiarized with the research strategies, including the ethnography, autoethnography and the phenomenology. And the best thing I could do here is that to share my experience and underlying concepts in the qualitative research and what we believe in the qualitative research as the truth. But again, it is entirely up to you about the practical application of the qualitative research and whatever I'm sharing with you right now, because only through the sharing, only through applying, you'll be able to get a kind of a pure essence or pure understanding of this particular methodology. And moving into my next and the key important slide, I have a disclaimer, because in the qualitative research is qualitative. It is not like 1 + 1 = 2. That is not the qualitative research. I mean, then we ask the question like, what is one? Why do we have to add one into one, and why do we call it two? That is the type of questions we raise in the qualitative research. Always we ask the questions like hows and the whys and what will happen next, right? And we always challenge the accepted truth in the world sometimes, because the truth may be partially interpreted, partially defined. And what is your interpretation and how do you see that? Those things are there. So my disclaimer is that today I'm going to share my the knowledge I share going to be based on my own experience, because in we believe that the qualitative researchers believe that there's no absolute truth in the social sciences. Rather, it depends on how well we define it, refine it, rectify it, and justify it. Right? It is entirely up to you. So it's like you have a large number of fruits and the vegetables on your table, or maybe in your refrigerator right now. So you have to decide what you're going to cook, or maybe is it going to be a salad, or is it going to be a curry, or are you going to add it to some other stuff and make it a fish bun? I don't know. So it is up to you. It's how you view it. And again, the examples I am using are purely based on what I have learned as important, not only in qualitative research methods, but also on how to communicate it and develop the quality of the content. So there's a way that I have developed, and I'm trying to deliver it to you right now to create a kind of a knowledge, learning experience. You're not just learning. I'm trying to create an experience. So, and in the meantime, I respect all your ideologies about those who are believing in the quantitative research, especially the positivistic researchers and the positivism. Yes, I know the conceptually and the philosophically they are correct, and they're beautiful study areas, but my angle could be totally different from yours. But it doesn't mean that you are wrong or I am wrong, and neither of us are wrong. So these are different perspectives, these are different angles. So that's why we have the qualitative researchers believe in interpretivism. That's why we qualitative researchers believe in the constructionism. So there's no, I mean, there's no competition between what is best, whether it's the qualitative, whether it's the quantitative. The both approaches should be actually the complementing each other, identifying what is right, what is wrong, and how we can rectify these issues by properly blending our strategies in our research methods. So what why do we conduct qualitative research? That's the most important question we are having right now, because we are very good with our SPSS, we are very good with our numerics, statistics, we are very good, we are handsome, and we know the smart PLS, we have done the AMOs. There's nothing else for us to explore in this quantitative domain. So in the domain, so why do we need to conduct this qualitative research? Why? Because now, when you are climbing up in the academic career, academic ladder, how are you going to position one day, and how you want to be remembered? Actually, I met Professor Peter Lugosi from the Oxford University when I was out there. I mean, when I was traveling, and then he asked me this question, Manoj, how you want to be remembered by the academia? Because your citations, your papers, going to be there. It has, you have the DOIs. It's going to be there forever. And how you want to be remembered, and how your children, your grandchildren going to look at you. So what contribution are you going to make to the body of knowledge? Actually, that particular body of knowledge, the through knowledge creation, you can contribute to the body of knowledge. So how can we create the knowledge? One of the main, I mean, main areas, according to my view, main strategies, or the easiest strategies, is that you follow the qualitative research. So the qualitative research provide, why it provides data about the meanings and the context regarding the people and the environment of the study, and thereafter you will be able to develop something new. Because why? The Kotler's context is different now. I mean, today I met this nice gentleman from the IK Global Marketing Academy kind of a thing, and he was talking about why are we not applying the Sri Lankan or the aesthetic knowledge, or Eastern knowledge in marketing, been applying the marketing strategies in the Sri Lankan context. Yes, that's a gap. There's an empirical gap. There's a population gap. Why are we not doing that? Perhaps we can start with the question, why are we not doing that? And why is one of the main questions that we address in the qualitative research. And the qualitative research, always remember, it is so much empowering. It empowers you. And here we talk about the lived experience. Now, where else you find a value to your own beliefs, your own values, your concepts, other than in qualitative research? This is the place. This is the place. I mean, you have a nice ideology and you think these concepts are wrong and the methods are wrong, maybe theories are wrong, or maybe you will come up with a brand new idea that might direct the future researchers or the business community towards a sustainable solution to some other issue, right? It's just an idea, it's a thought. So how are you going to validate it? Can you simply develop a scale and go for it for the fact analysis? It's a bit difficult, right? But the first step comes with the qualitative research. So it's empowering the researchers, right? And here importantly, you can take your lived experience, how you have lived and what knowledge you have gathered, and you can give a value through qualitative research to your lived experience. And again, we believe that the qualitative research is a journey towards the reality. There are multiple realities in the world, there are multiple truths in the world, and we believe through qualitative research we can take one step closer to that particular reality, to uncover the hidden truth which is out there. So when uncovering the truth, we have this big problem, the subjectivity and the objectivity. What is subjectivity and what is objectivity? I mean, the objectivity, you're familiar with that. You have applied that. The objective means based on a fact and evidence, free from personal bias or emotions. Basically, the positivistic thinkers, researchers are following the objective tradition, right? You maintain a separate existence from your data. Yes, fine, perfect. But is it always correct? Is it always correct? Don't you need to have the human involvement in understanding the social phenomena? So that is where we consider the subjectivity in the research. So subjective pertains to personal opinions and the feelings rather than factual evidence. So we believe that the scales 1 to 5 to 1 to 7 to any other scales cannot effectively measure the human emotions, well-being, perceptions, and we cannot explain everything happening out there in the society. We need to have our own interpretations. So it could be subjective. So I become a part of the knowledge, I become a part of the interpretation, right? So we use the subjective language when sharing the personal views, taste, or emotions. Could be many. There are examples down there, right? So it is different from the objective thinking. So objectivism really exists independently of human thoughts or perception, and the subjectivism is reality is constructed by individuals' perception, experiences, and social interactions. And you may be wondering why this guy is talking about these basics of the qualitative research. I mean, I'm just trying to lay the foundation. I'll spend another 5 to 10 minutes time before moving into the ethnography, auto-ethnography, and the phenomenology. So bear up with me because I want to explain you what I believe in and how I create the knowledge. We talk about the co-creation. So this is my background. I want to explain the background and then we'll talk about these three main research strategies. And again, the objective reality and the subjective interpretation. Objective, I mean, you can get this photo in the Google. So tree, I mean, when I was doing my masters, well, that's a long story. Long story short, okay, I didn't want to do the qualitative research. I wanted to do the quantitative part because that's viewed as an easy method. I had all my variables. It's about performing the correlation and the regression analysis. Then blah, I get the answers. But then my professor asked, Manoj, what is this? It's the question was strange to me because he's from the science background, and I was doing the research about community based tourism, right? And I thought he would love statistics and the SPSS. I mean, we didn't have the smart PLS by that time. We had the SPSS, and I was happy to do that. And then I was talking about the community's willingness, community's attitude towards the community-based tourism, blah blah. And then he asked the question, Manoj, why all these statistics? I said, okay, I can show the relationship, direct and the direct relationships and the moderating effects and all the control effects, all the blah blah. And then he asked this small question, Manoj, if a tree is a tree, why do you need statistics to prove it's a tree? It's a big question still. I mean, I still keep that question in my head whenever I'm conducting the research, like 15 to 20 years old question. Yes, it's a tree. If a tree is a tree, why do you need statistics and equations to prove it is a tree? You don't need that, right? So how do you prove it? You can prove it by simply explaining the characteristics of a tree. You can explain about its leaves, maybe its fruits, the branches and the roots and the barks, right? And maybe the birds having their nests on the branches, etc., etc. So that's how we create the knowledge in the qualitative. You try to explain its characteristics, right? The parts of it, parts of the big picture, thereby you will get what it is. So we have these objective realities and we have the subjective interpretations. So we are in qualitative research, we pay much attention towards the subjective interpretations because the people's knowledge and the people's understanding of the reality could be different. So the I want to quote here the James Spradley, one of the he's a very famous anthropologist, and he made a nice statement about the qualitative research, especially about the interviews, and now this helps us to understand different perspectives of the human beings, of our research participants, of our unit of observations. And he said, I want to understand the world from your point of view, not my point of view, right? Now most of the times the problem we are having is that I have my own interpretations, and I do not let the other person to come up his own interpretation. Especially with the students, we do that as well, right? Most of us are lecturers here, right? We are professors here. How many of us are empowering the students, right? So we have to make them think in a different angle, let them interpret the world from their point of view. I want to know what you want to know in the way you know it, right? Because they might have different ways of understanding it, and I want to understand the meaning of your experience, to walk in your shoes, to feel things as you feel them, to explain things as you explain them. There's a way of he feeling the things, right? There's a way of he experiencing the things. So imagine you are visiting a very rural area. You've seen the small mud houses, right? And you see people are making the polsambal and rice, and they eat that, and you think, wow, that's a rural luxury. And you think, I mean, had I had I had a kind of a small place like that, I would have been happier. No, that's not true, right? They're suffering actually. Some of them are suffering, not all of them, but some of them are suffering. So their experience is different. Living in a mud hut, right? It's different. You have to take off your shoes and get into their shoes and live there 1 year to get an understanding of the reality of their lives. Then we come to the ethnography, right? Spend a prolonged period of time in the subject's context, his his area, in his own world, right? So Spreadley is asking from his respondent, will you become my teacher and help me understand that? Will you become my teacher and help me understand that? Because why? The spread could be a famous anthropologist and we could be famous lecturers or the professors, we could be anyone, right? But when it comes to this particular subject area where our respondent is expertise on, or maybe he has more experience on, he is the expert, so he becomes our teacher. He becomes our teacher, and we have to respect that knowledge, and we have to get an idea of his perspective. We have to grasp it. We call it the grasping in its essence. So the nature of qualitative research is that we attempt to make sense of the social world in terms of meaning people bring to it. So what's going on here? And we try to uncover ideas and insights and the way of thinking about the phenomena for which little is known. People are having different thinking patterns. When you're doing the participatory observation or discrete one, or when we do the non-participatory observations, when you discuss, when you engage with different discourses, you understand people are thinking differently. In ethnography, we understand that, right? So, and we understand that in front of them, we know nothing. We know very little of it. So they obviously become our teachers. So we need the qualitative researchers to gain novel and first fresh perspective on things about which quite a bit is already taken. And also, we need the qualitative research to contextualize your understanding of an issue. And again, remember, in qualitative research, there's no random sampling, there's no p-values, and not representative of the total population. I often get this question, okay, how are you ensure the sample and the sample size? That's a different topic to talk. Maybe 1 hour, maybe 2 hours, the reliabilities, validities, and the trustworthiness. And we rarely use the statistical analysis. I'm not saying no. There are occasions that we use the statistical analysis as well, and definitely in most cases we don't use the numbers, and numbers have no value, right? So we try to come up with a rich story, a rich meaning into a context, right, to understand why it has happened or what's going on there. So that's the nature of the qualitative research. So I talk about the different perspective. That perspectives actually come from your own background, the way how you were raised, how you have been raised, and how you have been introduced to the social world, and how you are going to make the meanings out of it. For example, a kid who is brought he was brought up in a village, right, who have the experience in the village, totally different from a village, totally different from a kid who was brought up in the New Jersey or the New York. It is different because why? The way they were taught and the fed and they were cared and the things they have seen, so it's totally different. So people will definitely make different interpretations. People have different approaches to the knowledge. It is different. And how can you say that the Sri Lankan rural kid is wrong and the New Jersey kid is right? We can't say that. We can't say that. It's their own interpretation. So we have to understand these different or multiple realities when it comes to qualitative research. So that's why we have this. I want to quote the Buddha, the King Satyagavasi, where we call it the Satya Soyayam. So what is the truth? Again, we ask the question where the truth lies. Is the truth out there? Well, some qualitative researchers believe the truth is out there, and the quantitative researchers too believe the truth out there. But some qualitative researchers believe no, truth is not out there. Truth is what you make. Truth is what you make. That's very clear, right? When you're talking about the phenomenology, we can talk more of it. So I have listed some research philosophies and the key research assumptions and the paradigms. So remember, I'm paying much attention towards the interpretivism and the constructivism, where we have more room for the qualitative research. And we believe the reality is multiple and socially constructed. And the reality is constructed through individual and the collective meaning making, interpretism and the constructionism. So these are two areas where we mainly use the qualitative different qualitative research strategies. And again, this little this small slide where we I just want to highlight you about your career as well, because some of you might try to go out of the country to pursue your PhDs. Okay, one the most preferred destination for the country for management potential PhD seekers is Australia. That's number one. Number two, New Zealand, and then comes the United Kingdom, Canada, and China. So, and because why? At least once a month I get a call from someone, right, out there, a Sri Lankan, right, reading for a PhD. And because why? Because after going out there, they identify that, okay, my school think like this, and I have to do some qualitative part as a part of my PhD thesis, but we have not covered that part into that level of depthness here in Sri Lanka. That's a problem, right? So just get an idea, right? Importantly, if you're going to do a PhD in Australia and the New Zealand, importantly, they believe in interpretivism, they believe in pragmatism, they believe in critical realism and the constructivism, right? So be prepared, just know what is coming, just know what is coming, right? And then your PhD journey will be much easier. Right. And when it comes to qualitative research, remember, this is your study and your choice of methodology. You have to select whether you are going to do an ethnographic research, autoethnographic research, or phenomenological research, or any other, right? So you consider it as important and you have to justify it and you have to defend it. I'm skipping some small slides which I don't find important right now. And the types of qualitative data sources, we have multiple, we have dozens of different qualitative data sources, but our students in their research highly try to depend on the interviews, and they say they are going to do focus group discussions. No, it's very difficult for the undergraduates to do the focus group discussion. Just, and even for the master students, how many of them are really trying to get the respondents into the one table and throw a theme and make them discuss about it? It's difficult. But however, it is highly recommended that the students or we do the interviews plus the observations, right? And some other methods, so we can call it the data triangulation and try to do a better job. So here I come to our research strategies, and there are many research strategies out there. We have the ethnography, we have auto-ethnography, we have phenomenology, we have case studies, we have analytic inductions, qualitative comparative analysis, we have the genealogy studies, and narrative and biography, grounded theory, Q method, semiotics, discourse analysis, and archival research. So out of all these, we are going to talk about the ethnography, auto-ethnography, and the phenomenology. Right. So, any questions so far? Then we can have a fresh start in these research strategies. I guess no. Okay, we can go ahead. Right. Ethnographic research. So let's first see how this particular term has been derived. Actually, it is rooted from the Greek term ethno. Ethno means an ethnic group. Yes, it's about ethnic groups. It's about people. And the graphy is writing. It's a form of writing, drawing, or representation. And in the ethnography is a part of the sociology as well, where we discuss about ethnic groups. We discuss about different groups and the population, what they're doing, their thinking pattern, right, and their behaviors, etc., etc. So an ethnographic researcher, when conducting an ethnographic research, what is he supposed to do? Actually, number one is the prolonged engagement. That is, you spend a lot of time with your subjects, with your respondents, right? You eat with them, you party with them, you pray with them if they go to the temple or the mosque or the here and there, blah blah blah. I have done a lot of ethnographic studies, right? One of my key ethnographic studies is about the Beach Boys. Actually, it's been about now, I think I started my Beach Boy study way back in 2009. I still continue that under different, different angles, right? So I know exactly what they're doing. You have to be a part of their community. Then you can get some data about it. And again, when conducting an ethnographic research, you have to have a holistic perspective based on the premise that human behavior and the culture are complicated phenomena and are composed of and influenced by a multitude of factors. Because why the communities and ethnic groups thinking and the perspective is highly shaped by different incidents, including the historical precedents, including the physical context in which people live and the work. Is it the urban area, or is it a semi-urban area, town area, or a rural area? Where? And the social structures in which individuals are embedded. Social structures, where, how it is done, who has the power at home, who has the power in the village, right? Or maybe the organizational hierarchies, how it is done, how it is happening. So accordingly, the people change their behavior and the symbolic environment in which they act. Language, okay, we communicate through it, and the shared meanings, norms, understandings, right? So our behavior is shaped by all these things. So in ethnographic research, we can pay attention to their historical precedents, right? Their context, how they live, right? And the social structures where the individuals are embedded. What are their social structures, etc. And the ethnography is a study through direct observation of users and their social interactions in their natural environment. That is very much important in the ethnography. We should know what they're doing, in their natural environment, right? So if you do the participatory observation and if your identity is known, will they change their behavior? Definitely, yes. They're going to change their behavior. They're going to stage their behavior. We all know that. We have studied that during our undergraduate level. So how we can have a breakthrough? Where are you going to introduce the intervention? How are you going to get the true perspective into their lived experience or their day-to-day activities? That's where we have this prolonged engagement, right? If you are going to spend a long period of time in their particular societies, in their particular communities, then you will get it. You will feel, okay, this is fabricated, this is authentic, right? And you will be accepted and you will be invited to different social phenomena happening in their particular villages. And our goal is to understand a culture, norm, value, and and the social environment. So remember, here we follow the naturalistic inquiry or the in situ situation, where something is happening out there as it is, and you, the researcher, you go there, you be there, and you observe the phenomena. So it is not only the observation there that we are using. You can have the discussions, of course. You can have the group interviews. That's fine. And when doing so, and again collecting the data, remember the two approaches, emic and etic, right? In emic approach, we believe the understanding a situation from the viewpoint of those within the organization, the insider's perspective. And then we have the etic approach, understanding the situation from the viewpoint of the outsiders of the organization, from an external universal perspective. Sometimes we think that, okay, I'm correct, right? I know everything. I'm correct. I know everything. What is that? That is emic approach. But it could be different because our knowledge is very much limited. We don't know what's happening out there. The people from the external environment or external other organizations, right? They might think, okay, the entire social organizational structure within this company is wrong. The way they manage the HR is wrong. The cash flow uh, balancing is wrong, right? Budget is wrong there, right? And the marketing efforts are wrong, but we believe it's correct. So remember, in qualitative research, we cannot rely on one particular approach, right? If you are going to finalize your study with your own observation, you are going to be biased into your own thinking. You're going to be a victim of your own, this thing. No, you have to have a good and a balanced understanding and view of what's going on out there. Uh, Now here, another example of this emikinetic approach. I mean, I sometimes get some foreign students doing some research with me here at the Rajarat University. So often we visit the Kandy Temple of Truth. So I take them to the Pahatamale, this particular Buddha statue, and I ask them to observe it. And I ask them to, okay, list them the key things that they see here, the key things. right? And of course, the Sri Lankans, the first and foremost thing that we observe is the Buddha statue, right? And couple of statues, the Saryut and the Mughal, right? All these things are there. Most of once I got silent with this particular question. He made me silent. He was asking this one guy, Manoj, the Buddhism is supposed to be a non-violent religion, and why there are too many tasks here? ඇයි මෙච්චර ඇද්දලා තියෙන්නේ? That is the question I had. My goodness, I was silent for a second, and I handled the situation. But the people, they look into this differently. They could look into this particular phenomena differently, right? Even when you're working in an organization, your profit is going down, and you analyze the things, but you cannot understand why what has gone wrong, because you don't see it as a problem. That's your problem, right? That's why you need the auditors, that you need some external consultants. They will audit the entire, not only the accounts, but also the entire business processes. So we need the qualitative aspects into the research as well, right? So both emic and ethic approaches are important. And again, in qualitative research, remember, you have to, especially in the ethnography, you have to dive into the data. So what are your data in the qualitative research? There could be some social phenomena. Yes, the incidents happening there, right, in the society, or maybe in that particular place, maybe about a Pereira, right? So what it is, it's like you dive into a pool where you get a feeling, right? You feel the coldness of the water, the freshness of the water, right? So similarly, you should be able to make a sense of the social world that you're exploring about. Just like a diver, he's into the water, he get a sense of the water, right? So thereafter only you will be able to make an interpretation. So prolonged immersion and the prolonged engagements are very basics in the ethnographic research. However, in the undergraduate research, we cannot allow them to do the ethnographic research, to my that's my understanding, because it is time consuming. Can they be in a society or maybe the weather community for about 3 months? No, they cannot do that. So traditionally, the many of the ethnographic researchers are saying that you have to be with the communities or with whatever the social phenomena in that particular context for at least for about a year. Can we? Do we have time for that? No, we don't have time for that, right? So maybe the PhD level years, definitely, to a certain extent at the MBA level as well. Yes, you'll be able to do that. And also the proximity, you have to consider how easily or how easy or difficult for you to get into that particular communities, right? Oh, uh, uh, are you, whether you are able to coordinate with the data collection? Can you collect the data? How are you going to collect the data? Is just observations or interviews? How? Now, the two classic examples of nice and the famous ethnographic studies in Sri Lanka are done by Professor Nansen and Ratnapala. The two main studies, Sri Lanka Yachakya, the beggars in Sri Lanka, and the Sri Lanka Ganikau, the prostitutes in Sri Lanka, right? Whereas, well, when it comes to the beggars in Sri Lanka, well, he did the participatory observation. He participated in it, and he was dressed as a beggar. He went out there. He went to his university, Jayadhanapura, as a beggar, asking for the money and the food, etc., etc. Ethnographic studies. However, his identity was not known. It's discreet. He maintained that so that he was able to get the data. So the modern ethnography, however, is much shorter in duration than its traditional predecessors. Earlier, we said, okay, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. I mean, if you look at the history of the ethnography, there are some researchers who have dedicated years and years into understanding the different social phenomena happening in different social worlds. Yes, they have done that. There are many German philosophers, there are many French philosophers, right? Not the British, not the USA, but basically those things come from the Europe, right? All these philosophies. So and now the time is getting shorter, right? We are seeing the researchers conducting the or engage in the data collection for 3 months period, 6 months period, maximum 1 year period, and doing some research publications. Yes, They're doing that, right? Because now it is bit of complex, right? We have more advanced tools to collect the data. We have much more literature. I mean, there's it's very rare that you find some brand new contexts. We know, we are aware of what's going on, so we study that beforehand. We go there, we spend a sizable time period to get an understanding of what's going on, right? So the modern ethnography is much shorter in duration. And also, unlike the previous time where the researchers went personally to collect the data, now they are going in teams, right? So today I'm going to be there for 2 weeks, and thereafter another guy is going to be there for another 2 weeks, like that. So the group's going to be there. So that is the researcher triangulation. In a way, that's a plus point, that is very positive and beneficial, where you can have multiple angles into this particular study under consideration. And now we have the focus ethnography, which we practice in the medicine, health and medicine, where the medical professionals, they visit maybe the backyard of a house just to see how neat it is, how clean it is, or there are any other empty baskets or the combs shells where the rainwater is getting connected, or sorry, getting filled, and then the spread of the mosquitoes, etc., etc. So that's also part of the ethnography, but we call it the focus ethnography. So the cleanliness is the unit of analysis in that particular research. So we did this nice study about the Buddhist gaze and power in post-war destination. It's a case study of Jaffna in Sri Lanka, where we traveled with the local travelers who were taking the buses and the trains from Colombo to Jaffna, and we were with them. We were discussing about the war. We were discussing about all the stories related to the war and the A9 road and the Yal Davis and the Kilnochi, the fallen water tank, all these things, and we were basically studying the pilgrims' behaviors. This paper is available online. Maybe you can have a read of it. So this is a nice ethnographic study we conducted. And another one of the best ethnographic studies that I can recommend for you to read is the relations and historical relation of the Ceylon, of the island Ceylon, by the Robert Knox. And he was here during the 16th century, and he was imprisoned for about 20 years. And during such period, yes, he was very much exposed to the Sri Lankan culture. He started learning the Sinhalese as well, and however, he kept his experience in writing. He wrote the things, right? How he has observed the Sri Lankans behaviors, religious behavior, cultural behavior, social norms, etc., etc., etc. So he has become a part of the social setting. So people got used to him. There's that Suddha come in. Okay, we should not change our behavior. No one is going to stage their behavior because Suddha has been there. He's there for 20 years. Yes. So he was able to record all the social events. So finally, after going back, he was able to write them properly and publish this nice book about the Ida Heladeva, the Sinhalese translation. So participatory observation and other methods he has done, and the main objective he had was to understand a culture, norms, and values, social environment of a group. And then I come to the other very important point of today's session about the unit of analysis and the unit of observation. So, what is the difference here? Sometimes, I mean, we know the unit of analysis in the quantitative research, but in the qualitative research, it is different than the quantitative research. The qualitative research is different. So, in the unit, when it comes to the unit of analysis, I mean, when you are designing your research, you should have a clear understanding, what am I going to analyze, or what am I going to research about, what it is about, and from whom you are going to collect the data. That's important. So what is being studied and analyzed, and not how data are collected. That is what is being studied, is the unit of analysis here. What it is it, are you going to study about the individuals and their eating habits, or group members or their fighting habits? I don't know. The household's expenditure, the community vulnerability, right? Or maybe the communicable diseases, or maybe events like the Perahera. What it is? What is this study about? Right, so it also could be theoretical, or it could be conceptual. So with that, we come to the unit of observation. It's like from whom or from where the data are actually collected. This is what you're going to analyze, right? It could be individual employees, right, local residents, or it could be managers in the business setting, right, or it could be customers, right, in the business setting. So that is different. So unit of analysis is what you are paying attention to, and the unit of observation is from whom or from where you're going to collect your data from. That is very important to establish before you go to the field. So with the data collection methods in ethnographic research, we have the observations. We have four types of observations: the complete participant, complete observer, observer as participant, and the participant as observer. I will quickly share my experience about in all those four observational methods. Number one, complete participant. You take part in the activities and you are discrete. Actually, we were doing this study about intangible Hindu heritage in Jaffna. After the war situation, the photo was taken, I guess, 2014 or 15, when I was much younger, and nobody knew who I was, right. So I was able to capture their religious movements and their patterns, or whatever the things that they were doing. This is during the Nalur procession. And this is my study about the Beach Boys. We do not take part in the activities, and our identity is discrete. This is also a wonderful method to collect the ethnographic data. Now, this photo was taken, I think, 2010 or 11, right? And after that, I didn't get an opportunity to take this particular photo. And there's this beach boy doing something, yeah, something bad with a female solo traveler out there. And so I was just a complete observer. And this is again observe as participant. This photo was taken 2014, again 14 15, at the Vattappalai Kovil in Mulathu. I was studying about this particular people who are working on the temples. Actually, they were brought to Sri Lanka from India because due to the 3 decades long war, we have lost this skill setup, right, about temple building. So they were here, and we were doing this study. And this is also the observe as participant, another study. We were under the same study, the previous one which I mentioned, we were studying about the funeral rituals of the Hindus in Jaffna. This is at Kirimalai. And well, you have to take the permission for everything, and they were okay with my presence, my being there. And I had my interpreter, so we were observing it, and we were questioning sometimes, and I did not take part in the activities. And this is participant as observer, another case that we did there in Somavati. And there were many encroached farmers who were sending their dairy, their cattle into the Somavati National Park. So they knew who we were, and we were participating into the things. So sorry, participant and observer, you take part in the activities, and your identity is known. So we were working with the CSDs and the wildlife people, forest people, for the data collection. And there was some and we interviewed some of these encroachers, why they are doing it, and what's going on inside, etc., etc. Some examples. And other than the observations, and observations is one of the most effective tools in collecting the data for the ethnographic research. And thereafter, we find the interviews. We have all these different types of interviews, and the focus group discussions, field notes, of course, and document analysis, artifacts and the material culture analysis, visual ethnography, life history interviews, etc., etc., etc. So remember, when you are conducting an ethnographic research, do not rely on one particular methodology, but select a few. Keep a Thoragan. You keep a few of them, so that you will be able to get a more holistic understand about the social phenomena which is under consideration or your study. Right. The next is the phenomenology. So this could be little complex, but I will try to simplify as much as possible, because under phenomenology, we question the knowledge, right? The subjective interpretations and the different interpretations have a higher value in the phenomenology. So it is very much important that before you go out there to collect the data, or even before you finalize your research objectives, your data collection tools, etc., uh, selecting of all these different research strategies, what am I going to select? Because according, you have to have your philosophy first, yes, and then the paradigms, yes, and we come to the phenomenology. Why? And what is my view about the knowledge? Is it the truth, absolute truth, or is it a kind of a shaken truth, or the multiple realities? So the in why I'm saying that this is the knowledge here we create is based on the experience, because phenomenology is a philosophy of experience. So phenomenology, the ultimate source of all meaning and the value, is the lived experience of the human beings, their lived experience. And the pure meaning of phenomenon can only be understood through subjectively, intuitively, and the grasped in its essence. The pure meaning of the phenomena. Something has happened, and how are we going to capture that? What is meant? What is the underlying message of that particular phenomena, right? And based on our experience, based on our interpretation, based on our learned, uh, experiences, education, we might interpret it subjectively. Mine is totally different from yours. This is where we argue that, and we we also pay attention to the consciousness in phenomenology. Studies the conscious experience of something. If you are making a knowledge, if you're making an interpretation into the knowledge without having the correct consciousness, how are you going to contribute to the body of knowledge? Or how are you saying this is the truth, this is absolute truth? No, you can't do that. So let's remember, in phenomenology, you have to have the conscious understanding, conscious experience on what's going in or around your social world, or the place that you have visited to collect the data. So studies conscious experience of something as experienced by the subject or the researchers, right? Your or someone else is conscious about something. We can do that in either way. So Edmund Husserl is known as the father of phenomenology. He's a German, like the French German kind of a guy, and study structures of consciousness as experience from the first person point of view. So it could also be like, under phenomenology, we could look at an incident, right? Maybe maybe about a childhood experience, something you have tasted during your childhood. Your grandmother used to make it, right? Or some candy. What comes to your mind when you think of that small candy, right? She used to make some nice oil cake, let's say, right? So what is your conscious understanding? Wow, it comes in this size, it comes in this shape, and tasted like this is how it is cooked. You have the conscious understanding, right? So with that, we try to make the knowledge. So the consciousness, what is consciousness? That is our lived awareness of the world, our lived awareness. So with the understanding only, we trying to make an interpretation. If not, we have failed. The way things appear to us as meaningful here. Now, this is a critical statement. That's why I was very clear about the in-text citations. Now, the phenomenologists, they reject the positivism. They reject the quantitative beliefs and scientific philosophies because they are seen to exclude the consciousness. I'm not saying it, but the phenomenologists saying it, which is deemed to be the very source of knowledge and the value and value, right? They reject positivism. They reject the quantitatives, right? Do they really exclude the consciousness? Yes, they exclude the consciousness. For example, you're making a questionnaire, with all these, validated tools, techniques. You have the statements, and your respondents are supposed to mark it either 1 or 7 or whatever it is. So where is the consciousness? You have limited their consciousness by providing the statements. So that is where the phenomenology is saying that you cannot get the absolute truth through the positivism, right? Because you are not researcher is not a part of the learning experience. You have a separate existence. And they further say the scientific methods are constitutionally unfit to settle the questions of value and hence the questions of meaning for personal existence. Constitutionally unfit to settle the questions of value. So, basically, the positivistic traditions are not strong enough, not sufficient enough to answer the questions that we see in the social domains or in the different phenomena. So uh, we have to give a higher value for the personal existence. And it is also against the tradition. The reality exists out there. It is against the tradition. Now, reality exists out there and completely separate from the individuals. Now, when I was starting the session, I told you about the absolute truth. We believe it is out there and we have to go and find it, what it is. But the phenomenologists do not agree with that either. The phenomenologists believe that the knowledge is what you create, right? The knowledge is what you create, and that is the truth. And it is subjective. It is different from person to person. So as phenomenology rejects positivistic and scientific paradigm, it is not concerned with generating concepts, abstracts, and the theories. No, they do not believe it, because the knowledge you generate is limited to that particular phenomena and to that particular individual as well. It is very hard to generalize it. We don't generalize. That's why I'm telling my colleagues, don't ask me about the question of generalization. There's no Morgan table here. No, we are not taking a sample from the population. We are paying attention to maybe to one particular individual who can tell us a rich story about his lived experience and with something, etc. So we are not going to generate or make the universal truth. No, the knowledge I derive, I generate is my knowledge, my understanding, my truth. It is different from others. Okay, let it be. You can have your own perspectives, you can have your own thinking. That's what the phenomenologists do. And all knowledge is considered subjective and related to the person weaving the world, right? That is Schmidt and the Willis. And one cannot know for certain what the world is like in itself, and therefore one can only know what it is like for individuals. Very beautiful. One person cannot say what the world is like. We cannot say. We have many restrictions, right? We have many restrictions. No one has covered each and every part of the world. We don't know that. How could you say this is the absolute truth? No, we don't know that. We don't know. So the phenomenologists are saying one can only know what it is like for individuals. But I feel it in this way. The sun is rising. I feel warmth. I hear the birds' songs. Right? It's beautiful. That's what you believe. But again, compare that situation with a prisoner who is convicted, right, and who is sentenced to die. He's in a death row, and 10 o'clock is the hanging time. Will he love the sun? Will he love the bird songs? No. So his truth is totally different than mine, right? So in the social world, in the qualitative world, we think of those things as well. The individual realities, multiple realities. And the phenomenology thus asks scholars to explore a phenomenon from the perspective of the experiencing person, how the people have experienced it, and how he has experienced it, and how he is experiencing it, and after experiencing it, what type of a meaning he or she is generating about the knowledge and about the world. So what do we study in the phenomenology? We study about the perceptions, thoughts, memories, imaginations, emotions, desires, volitions to body awareness, embodied actions, social activities, including the linguistic activities. And a nice paper I can recommend you is the traditional Japanese wedding, authored by Professor Martin Woodside. I have met the professor, and there he has been married to a Japanese lady for about 50 years now. In 2015, during the anniversary, he gave a gift to his wife about with his publication. Right, he has written about it. His experience of being married to a Japanese lady for 50 years during the first year, what he has faced in the Japanese context. They were first in Japan before moving to the New Zealand, right? He was humiliated. He has been, cheated. He has been discriminated. So the entire thing has been a kind of a nightmare and a different phenomena to him. So he was making a knowledge out of that. And later he has studied, and then he has become a part of the Japanese society, his wife's native society, and then he was okay, right? But yet still he's keeping his bad memories in mind. And now I have seen, we have auto-phenomenology and the self-phenomenology, right? You can identify a situation. If you are the researcher, you identify a situation where you are the subject of it. So a researcher's own lived experience can study it phenomenologically. That can be done. Now, the Bamaravalal, right? I hope some of you have watched it. The main actor, and he was taking a charcoal, yeah, anguru arang, and he's drawing something on his mud wall, right? The small drawings. What are these things, right? People might say he's illiterate and he cannot draw the things, but later he says, "This is myself, this is my mother, and this is my father." That is his knowledge. So in phenomenology, according to the phenomenologist, that's the knowledge he creates, that's what he believes. So according to phenomenology, that is his knowledge, and that is the truth. We have to accept that part. uh, Quickly, when it comes to the explanation, or when we are analyzing the phenomenological data, we have the descriptive phenomenology and we have the interpretive part of it. I will quickly go to that. So, how do phenomenologists do phenomenology? What is the descriptive part? First, when there's an incident, you have to describe it. Now, for example, imagine you have a cat at home and cat is dead, maybe a dog, right? And what it is like, what is the description of it? What is your feeling? Are you feeling happy, or are you feeling the loss? How do you describe that? So first, if you're following the phenomenology, you have to describe it. And number two is that you have to interpret it, right? You have to interpret it in relative terms, right? Oh, yes, your cat is dead already, but how do you interpret that? I mean, how do you put it in a comparative term, right? Compared to the lost dog. You had a favorite dog, and it was died maybe a year or 2 years back, right? So in comparatively, how are you going to interpret that? Relatively, okay, are you more sad compared to that particular incident? And then you come to the analyze the form of the experience, how this feeling of loss works. Maybe 1 month later, 2 months later, you can think about it, and it could be different again from person to person, right? The analyze in the form of the experience. Okay, some might say, "I feel happy about it because there's no one to ruin my couch, no one to steal the food, etc." So remember, when the phenomenologists do phenomenology, you have the pure descriptions. That's number one. Number two, you have to have a proper interpretation, and number three, you have to analyze it. And having said that, I want to move to this the other slide which I missed, the bracketing. In phenomenology, remember, you have to temporarily set aside your own assumptions, your own beliefs, right? Because here we believe your respondent's thinking is the correct thing. His belief is the knowledge. His belief is the truth here. So you have to exclude your personal experiences of the phenomena. Theoretical explanation, you have to give a zero value to all these things, your professional assumptions, cultural or moral judgments, and the common sense of the interpretation. So we call it bracketing. That is very important when you are studying or conducting a phenomenological research. Right, Nilf, I'll come back to thank you. Uh, and here we come to the autoethnography. The autoethnography entails the researcher researching and writing his or her own culture and the practice. Now, who is the subject of this subject when conducting an autoethnographic research? Who is the subject? And what is our unit of observation? What is our unit of analysis? Now, autoethnography is about the researcher himself becoming the subject of the study. Subject of the study. You study a phenomena through your own lenses, right? Your lenses. And the autoethnography is a research method and methodology which uses the researcher's personal experience as data to describe, analyze, and understand broader cultural, social, or institutional phenomena. There are theories, there are concepts, there are cultural and social or institutional complexities, and you are using your own lenses, your own experiences to give an interpretation. So one of the main differences between the ethnography and the autoethnography, in autoethnography, you consider of self, yourself. You are the researcher and you're going to analyze the social phenomena through your lenses. In ethnography, you pay attention to someone else's experience, someone else's meanings, how they create it. And here, in autoethnography, we need to consider the insider versus the outsider's perspective. What do you believe in and how it could or should or would differ from others? What they believe as the truth. That is important. And uses researchers' autobiographical experiences like visiting a shop. You are going to have your dinner in a hotel, closer to your boarding house, closer to your home, right? And then you come across with some experience and you want to write about it. You want to write about it. Maybe the police want to check your ID. You don't carry your ID because you are just walking to the next door, next the hotel in your neighborhood. You don't carry the ID, and police, however, take you into uh, police station, lock you behind the bus, uh, the present you in front of the judge, and the judge give the verdict to put you in prison for 2 days, maybe. Okay. So then you're the subject, you experience that. And through your lens, you can talk about the Sri Lankan legal system, maybe. Sri Lankan legal system. So your autobiographical experiences as primary data to analyze and interpret the socio-cultural meanings. And autoethnographers have been in the forefront of challenging the traditional written form of the research report. Now, traditionally, let it be the quantitative or the qualitative, we have had different particular methodologies. This is how we develop it. We have our introductions, we have our literatures, we have our methodologies, but in the autoethnography, it is different. If you take many of the good the papers where they have followed the autoethnographic research, there's no very constructive methodology part. No, I have not seen. I have not seen, I mean, very good papers where they have really studied the autoethnography. It's all about how you seen the things, your own method, how you make an interpretation. And they have drawn on a variety of creative art, including autobiography, fiction, poetry, and performance art to share their findings and to make scholarship more accessible. That is also possible, right? You're making the creative arts, Now, one of my very good friends, Dr. Sara Vijayasuri, she did her PhD in United Kingdom, and she has encountered with lots of problems. She was not exactly problems, but there were kind of situation that she faced during her study. And she did a very nice autobiographic study about it, and she asked her friends to play some roles, as one as a supervisor, second one as a second supervisor, another one as a Viva panel members, etc., etc. And then she played the role of the candidate, and then she uploaded it to the YouTube, and then she wrote an article about it, about her own experience, and then she published in an A-star journal, a top 10 index journal, right? So that's she nicely blended the creative arts with the autoethnographic traditions. So remember, the self is a subject to look into and a lens to look through to gain an understanding of a social culture. So you are analyzing the society, you are analyzing the social phenomena or maybe the cultures through your lenses, through your lenses. So you are the subject here. So the unit of analysis here is a cultural, organizational, or social phenomena, or maybe about the Sri Lankan legal system, or maybe about the PhD evaluations. That is your unit of analysis. So what is the unit of observation? That is the researcher's own observation, memories, emotions, and the practices, etc. So autoethnographic writing can serve to make a person's lived experience accessible to others and further understanding of a particular issue or a phenomenon. And there's this other study conducted by Haley, used experimental writing to explore her own experience of childhood trauma, stigma, ostracism, and the parental sexual abuses, etc., etc. So these are like, I mean, well deserved and well accepted researchers, and at some point of their life they say, okay, I should write about it. So their own experience is coming to the world through their own publications. And another student of mine did a nice autoethnographic study about, now she's a Muslim girl, and now she got selected to the tourism and hospitality, to read for the tourism and hospitality degree. And then how it transformed the traditional Muslim girl into a tourism and hospitality professional, and what she was taught at home, what the religions taught her, and what was taught in the university. Actually, it is not like 100% transformation, but she was present in her own experience, her lived experience throughout this 20 years. What's changing, what is right, what is wrong through her particular lenses. That's a nice autoethnographic study too. So there are three core elements in autoethnographic research, just like the phenomenology. You have the autobiographic in content, and ethnographic in terms of its methodology, and then you have the interpretation. So all these three things should be there when you are going to write an autoethnographic research paper. And the other paper I want to highlight is the Professor Modesti's paper about looking at me, kind of, it's a kind of a gaze paper. So this professor from the Colorado State University, I have met her. She's a lovely woman with lots of tattoos all over her body, and she wanted to visit the Colombia. And then and she was very short, right? I mean, short dresses, like a sports brassiere here and a short here, and so the others could see her. And how the children have mistaken her for a Hollywood celebrity, she has explained that. And also the other people, how they have looked at her, gazed at her while she was walking down the streets, or while she was waiting for her drink at the pub or the bar, etc., etc. And this is her, and she was writing about her own experience about being gazed at. So and she was her unit of analysis was the gaze thing, right? The visual consumption, and her own experience is the unit of observation here. So the paper you can easily download and you can have a read of it. And which brings me to the last slide of the today's session. The qualitative research empowers researchers to trust their curiosity, voice, and intellectual judgment. And the ethnography, auto-ethnography, and the phenomenology uncover deep meanings and human realities that numbers alone cannot reveal. And most original theories and the breakthrough ideas begin with the qualitative exploration. And again, like I mentioned earlier, right, if you want to have a secure place in the academia, right, maybe, and again, how you need to be remembered, right? So this is the easiest way. If you can do a nice qualitative research and if you can contribute something to the body of knowledge, well, the qualitative research is there, and there are different beliefs, there are different concepts, different theories on which you will be able to establish yourself as a successful reader, researcher, or an academic, etc., etc. So I welcome you to do more qualitative research, and I'm available for any further works to work with you. You can contact me through Dr. Nuwan. So I guess now we can move to the little question and answering session if you are having. Yeah, it's already 8:20.
Yes, Professor Manoj, we will take up. There is one question on the chat box. Shall we take it up first?
Yes, let me. Uh, Yeah, Nilufa's question is about, please be kind enough to clarify the phenomenological ethnography. Actually, Nilufa, I cannot give you a direct definition of phenomenological ethnography because the phenomenology is also a part of the ethnography. So I can put it in this way. If you, I mentioned about the lens through which you are going to explore the societies or maybe the cultures, right? So if you're using the phenomenological sorry, so if you're going to use a particular phenomena, maybe the perahera, right, candy procession or many other religious activities, to understand the human behaviors there. Now, for example, now I really interested in seeing how these dancers getting dressed, the males, okay, and they have, and also the customs and the rituals they do. So that is also a phenomena, and through that phenomena I study about their small cultures, right, what they do, what they are believing in, etc., etc. So that is the brief explanation I can give you right now, so you can identify a particular phenomena and incident to make a better understanding of the behaviors of the social groups, people.
All right, Professor Manoj, let me ask one question now. As you
Yes.
mentioned, when you look at the unit of analysis as the organization, you can even apply ethnographical studies by
Yeah.
considering organizations as your unit of study, unit of
Yeah.
analysis. Now, when you apply into business organizations, so when you apply that into organizational studies, now what sort of factors we need to consider and what sort of challenges we would encounter in applying ethnographical studies? When you
uh,
plan for a study, what are the factors to consider and what are the challenges we will encounter?
uh, the the factors, actually, I cannot directly say. You have to identify the factors through your initial observations or maybe with the initial discussions, right, with the management or maybe with the employees. So through those factors you can look into this particular issue. But I would be more comfortable in answering the question of challenges. There will be many challenges when conducting any sort of ethnographic research. The data availability, exposure, and again the competencies of our researchers, their adaptability and understanding. Because, well, there was this particular slide which I missed when I was conducting a lot of research in the Jaffna, the post-war context. These and so I the during one of these researches, my unit of analysis was the reconciliation. and the host guest interaction. So unit of observation was a kind of a experience that the local visitors and the Jaffna, these merchants are making. So this one onion merchant, actually, when I approached him to collect the data, asking about his experience with the Sinhalese, and actually he spitted on me. Right? So there could be some very complexities associated with our respondents, because they might have different values, beliefs in their own social world, because I cannot blame on him. He might have different experiences about the Sinhalese, maybe, but I respect whatever his thing. But later on, I was able to, with the support of an interpreter, I explained my true purpose, and he was nice enough to contribute to my study. So the factors you have to identify by yourselves, but lots of challenges going to be there when conducting. And I think the challenges you can overcome with proper training and understanding of the nature of these particular research methods and the scope of it.
All right. Okay. Okay. Yes. Let me now open the floor for any questions. We have any questions or comments from the participants? Until we get any question, let me ask another question. How
Yes,
do you
Doctor.
deal with ethical concerns and including informed consent in these approaches?
Right. Well, it's a very important question. Now, uh, I will put it in this way. So we have to consider about the nature of the questions you are going to ask, right? And the nature of the study as well. There could be very sensitive studies, and there could be very sensitive questions you are going to raise from your researchers, from your respondents. So in that case, you must have the approval from your ethics review committee. I remember this one story. One of my students, uh, she went to Australia to read for the master's research, and her research was about these disabled travelers. So when she developed the question, a question always got rejected from the ethics review committee, because there was this one question about asking, do you have any type of a disability? Right? So the ethics review committee has continuously rejected that because of that particular question. So she faced a lot of problems, because when it comes to tourist experience, no, she was about a disabled tourist experience. She could not ask these particular questions properly, because now, yeah, Australia and New Zealand, some developed countries, they are very sensitive about these particular areas. But in Sri Lanka, it is not that developed. But when it comes to sensitive research areas, yes, it is needed. But then again, when it comes to, say, the religious studies, you are not going to deal with any human emotions or the attachments. You're not going to challenge any existing discourses. I guess we can get the informed consent. You can print it in the questionnaire guide. You can get them signed off, etc., etc. I mean, we have the documents in place for that, and then you can go ahead with that. Thank you, Doctor. Very important.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
May I ask question, Dr.
Yes.
Nuwan?
Yes.
Uh,
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Manoj. You did very nicely and slowly, which was very comfortable for us. I have a small question, maybe different, but how we check whether if we are evaluating a student or undergraduate or a postgraduate student, how can we really evaluate whether that student has carried out that research or not? I mean, like if it is quantitative, of course, we have hard and fast rules, but once it comes to whether that person is doing through AI or some kind of strategies, or how you monitor for our further evaluation as a lecturer.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jayasinghe. I mean, we also encountered the same issue when we first started, when we first allowed our students to do the qualitative research. So we introduced this small policy in the faculty. So the students, those who are conducting the qualitative research, must audio record all their interviews. Right? Actually, there's another different process about from the point that they collect their literature. They have to show us to this voice. You should make it available You have to record it and you have to transcribe it, and we are going to randomly check whether the transcriptions are in par with the recording, right? And also when it comes to the analysis, yes, AI will do an excellent job with the content analysis or the thematic analysis in the paid version. I have done that. You can easily upload all the transcriptions, and they will nicely develop the themes, focus codes, open codes, and all the blah blah. They will do that. So in our case, actually, we are asking the students to produce all their working materials before they are facing the final viva. So after that only they get qualified to face the final viva. So that's the strategy we are adopting, and unfortunately we don't have these AI detectors right now. It's very expensive. So these are the strategies we are having right now. I guess we can put all our heads together and make a comprehensive policy for the entire system.
Thank you.
Any other questions, please? Maybe we can take one more minute. All right, Professor Manoj, let's wind up the session. Thank you very much for your insightful and engaging contributions. I think you opened up new vistas to conduct research in different areas and different avenues which we have not looked at sometimes. And we gladly appreciate the clarity of the presentation, the willingness to share your practical insights. We highly appreciate that one. Then again, we thank you for your time and the effort dedicated to conduct this session. And I would also like to thank our active audience for being here, especially during this evening time. So thank you very much. We will we will wind up the session now. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Nuwan, and thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.